Madam Speaker, I rise in the chamber today as Canada's newest Member of Parliament, elected to represent the riding of Durham. And I have a very clear message to deliver on behalf of my community in Durham. We are tired of the Prime Minister's broken promises. We are tired of the Prime Minister promising to fix this and fix that, and in return what we receive is a life that is harder and more expensive. Madam Speaker, we believe that Canadians deserve better, and we believe that the topic of debate today, Pharmacare, is just the latest example of the Prime Minister promising big things only to disappoint the people of Canada. Now, I put my name on a ballot, and I wanted this job as Member of Parliament because despite the Prime Minister's best efforts, I am optimistic and hopeful about the future of this country. I believe that once we have a new leader in this great land, we will see brighter days ahead. Hear, hear. And my optimism does not come from these big deficits or these big budget announcements. My optimism comes from my knowledge of the people of Canada and the people of Durham. My optimism comes from people like Kirk Kemp, who runs one of the biggest and most important agricultural businesses in Canada, Algoma Orchards. And as he becomes more successful in his business, he only gives back more to our community, supporting initiatives like the Bowmanville Hospital redevelopment. My optimism comes from people like Dr. Khan Chandra, a dentist in Curtis, Ontario, who has built a tremendous business, provides for his family, and gives back to our community as a connector for Durham's growing Tamil community. And my optimism comes from Kim and Leon Morrow over on Taunton Road East in Oshawa, who scrape together every spare dollar they can find and every spare moment to provide guidance and mentorship to young men and women who may otherwise fall into the pitfalls that await struggling youth. But Kim and Leon have their backs, and that is why I'm hopeful about the future of this country. You see, Madam Speaker, I'm very honored to stand here in this beautiful building, and I appreciate the chance to dress up in a suit and a tie. But my heart was not shaped in places like this. My heart was shaped by people like my grandfather, Robert McFarland, rest in peace. My grandfather, who worked as a school custodian for decades in the Toronto District School Board. A man who swept the floors and mopped the floors, who kept the classrooms tidy, who locked up at the end of the night so that children had a place to learn and teachers had a place to work. And I carry his story with me. I come into this job very much a servant, like my grandpa. I am here to protect what makes this country special, to protect the rights and freedoms of Canadians, to make sure that this country continues to be a place where people from all over the world can come and find a better life. People like my grandpa, who came here from Scotland, my grandmother, who came here from Ireland, and my father, who came here from Kenya. Now, I am aware that there is a liberal playbook that gets used against people who disagree with this Prime Minister. A playbook that likes to marginalize and vilify anyone who has the audacity to stand up and say what is happening in this country right now is not right. And that playbook the Prime Minister likes to use, likes to cast people who disagree with him as racists. And I would be welcoming the Prime Minister to try that with me. You know, based on our history, I don't think that's going to go so well for him. But I also believe that he is completely out of touch with the needs and desires, the hopes and dreams of our very diverse country and the diverse communities like the one I represent in Durham. He's welcome to take his claims that people who disagree with him are racist to my African father and see how that goes for him. He also uses this liberal playbook to marginalize and vilify Canadians who disagree with him by calling those of us who believe in traditional family values bigots. Wow. And I say to him, come to my riding, my diverse riding in Durham, and try that on us, where we have Christians and Muslims, Sikhs, Hindus, and Jews living together, all people who believe that mothers and fathers matter. He's welcome to try that with us. And I know his liberal playbook also likes to say that people who disagree with him don't care about the working class or don't care about vulnerable people. And I don't think that's going to work on me either. I am not a trust fund baby. Like most people in this country, I have clawed and I have scraped and worked hard for everything that I have. I don't think the Prime Minister can say the same thing. And the reality is this. He's welcome to try that message on people like my mom. She'd love to have a conversation with him. A woman who raised 3 children by herself, 68 years old, sorry mom, continues to work hard every day because she cannot afford to retire in this NDP Liberal economy. The Liberal playbook is not going to work. They can try their greatest hits. Tune up the guitar. Tune up the banjo. The greatest hits aren't hitting anymore. And I'm here to deliver that message very, very clearly on behalf of my community in Durham and anyone else in this great country who is unhappy with what is happening and frustrated to feel like they are not able to say what is happening in their hearts and their minds, do not feel validated and affirmed by the reality they experience, not being echoed by many of the institutions across this country who have bought into a narrative that simply does not reflect reality. Now, with the remainder of my time, I'd like to also deliver a message to any young men and young women across this country who might hear my words. My presence in this chamber is a glitch in the system. I'm not supposed to be here. When I was 15 years old, I failed the Ontario literacy test. I was labeled illiterate by the Ontario education system. But I'm here. At the age of 30, I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. I sat in a recliner with an IV in my arm pumping my body with chemotherapy drugs. I laid on a hospital bed as radiation lasers ran along my spine for months. But I'm here. I took on woke censorship from corporate Canada, looked them dead in the eye, and I'm here. And I've been the subject of hit piece after hit piece from liberal news media. And guess what? I'm here. Yeah. The reality is that many young men and young women are facing a variety of challenges across this country right now, some of whom are facing things that I can't even fathom. But as long as I stand in the House of Commons, as long as I'm honored to call myself a member of Parliament, I hope that I can be a walking, talking reminder that you should never give up. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your family. Don't give up on your community. And don't give up on this country. And as long as I'm here, I won't give up on them either. Thank you.
Great job.
Questions and comments, questions et commentaires. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. And I did want to thank the member for sharing his personal stories and to congratulate him on his first speech here in the chamber. I did have one very brief question in regards to the member, and is that could he give his personal perspective on the principles of a national Pharmacare program?
The Honourable Member for Durham.
Well, my concern in being asked about Pharmacare is that I'm being drawn into a debate which sort of assumes that the Liberal NDP government is going to do what they say. And I think we've seen over the course of the last 8 years that is simply not going to happen. We have a country full of people, tens of millions of people, who have been led to believe over and over and over again that the Liberal NDP government and this Prime Minister are going to deliver for the hardworking people of this country. And yet, that has never happened. So before I would discuss anything like the principles of Pharmacare, I'd like to be convinced that anything substantive is actually going to happen for the people of Canada. And I'd love to be able to go back to my riding and say, you know what, they have a plan for us here. Unfortunately, everything I've seen since I got here last Monday has indicated otherwise.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Courtenay Alberni.
Well, Madam Speaker, I'd like to join my colleagues in congratulating my colleague on his election, on his first speech. And Madam Speaker, I recall a great quote from Scott Bryson, who sat both on the Liberal bench and the Conservative bench. When he sat in this House, he said that regardless, and obviously I don't share a lot of the policies of the Conservative Party, he said, but regardless of where you sit in this House, you can make a huge impact and difference for Canadians. And I hope my colleague will also take that into heart and working collectively with each other to try to find solutions to support Canadians as we walk forward together. But Madam Speaker, to the question of insulin, and I know my colleague cited the delays of the Liberal government, I agree, but does he believe that insulin, free of cost, no charge, would be a benefit to his constituents, and would he be willing to work with us to find a pathway to expedite that? Thank you.
The honourable member for Durham.
You know, when I was a cancer patient at North York General Hospital and Sunnybrook Hospital, I saw many people in very dire health circumstances, people facing all sorts of challenges, some of whom I shared a cancer ward with. And what was very clear to me is that we need programs that can help people who don't have the money to purchase drugs that they need. What we had in that cancer ward at North York General Hospital was a provincial program to help people afford drugs. And what I continue to be confused about as I hear this debate on Pharmacare is why exactly there is not greater recognition of the need to work with the provinces in order to solve some of these problems. I saw people right beside me hooked up on the same IVs as I was, getting their bodies pumped with chemotherapy drugs, who depended on those provincial programs in order to get the health care that they needed. And what I worry about, and I think my fellow cancer patients at North York General Hospital would worry about, including cancer patients all across this country, is whether this is a matter of creating more bureaucracy here in Ottawa, or if we're actually concerned with providing people with what they need at an affordable price.
Questions and comments, questions et commentaires. A brief question, the honourable member Cumberland Colchester.
Thanks very much, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleague from Durham for his fantastic speech. You know, you've had the opportunity to knock doors very recently, and I wonder if you can enlighten the House of the issues that you...
To address questions and comments through the chair and not directly to the members.
I apologize to you. He's caught up in the moment, Madam Speaker. If the member, through you, Chair, Madam Speaker, could elaborate on the issues that he heard knocking on the doors in his most recent election for all of Canada to understand what the issues are out there, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
The honourable for Durham has a brief question, please. He's got 50 seconds to respond.
The short answer to my colleague's question is simply affordability. People from all ages, whether they be seniors concerned about their pensions not being able to afford a good quality of life, people my own age living in their parents' basement hoping to move out and start a family one day, across generations.